I want to start with this one, Pete, because
Go ahead.
I feel like I am the epitome of the audience of bad boys,
You're a
and
bad boy.
I am a bad boy for life, and so I love the original when it came out in 1995. I'm going to tell you a little history of the Bad Boys. This is what I'm going to do right now. But when the original one came out, I remember watching it, and I love the style of it, and I just remember thinking, I really like what this director is doing. It's different, it's fresh, and lo and behold, this new director was Michael Bay, and he would then go on to do The Rock and
He's kind
Armageddon,
of good.
and you know
Yeah.
he was a commercial director, in Transformers, of course, but he was a commercial director, and he's a very visual director. However, you can definitely make that argument that he's not the best story director. Like Steven Spielberg is very good at directing and has a good visual sense. I would also argue he's not necessarily great with CGI. I think he sometimes overdoes CGI. Michael Bay is great with practical effects. That's actually, and it's kind of crazy that Michael Bay is more practical than Steven Spielberg. Like, it's insane when I even say that in my mouth. But so I remember watching the first one and I loved it because it was just
Yeah.
a real raw, action packed kind of cop thriller, And
Buddy cop.
the first one was solid, but it didn't have a huge budget. But it did very well, and I saw it in theaters. I remember it.
Let me stop you because the first one, it didn't have a big budget, but
It
it
gave him bang
looked
for
like it had a really big budget. I mean,
yeah,
I think that's his brilliance in a way as a director is that he's able to take things and really make them look original and significant, but then
yeah,
also under a normal budget.
yeah.
Like I mean, that first one was incredible. Go
And
on.
and he would also kind of levitate stars. So Will Smith was not a star yet. I mean, he was on Fresh Prince of Bel Air, but this was his first real movie, I believe. I mean, I think he did like another movie, but this was like his first. He's the star. This is his movie type thing, and then he would do Independence Day right after this. I believe that's the timeline. He might have been Independence Day first. Don't quote me on that. I should have done research. Anyways, and then Martin Lawrence had his show Martin, but he was not like a movie star yet. This was like his first film, and he would go on to do many more films. And so that was also kind of his thing too, is he would kind of launch other stars, kind of young and upcoming stars, and kind of take in the next hemisphere. He did that with kind of Ben Affleck. You got a young Ben Affleck after Good Will Hunting, but he still was not really an action star yet. And Ben Affleck kind of went into that, and then also like Josh Hartnett, he really hadn't done much before that. So,
Right.
and the second one had a bigger budget. I can make an argument that the second one's my favorite, but I also thought it was too long. Like there was just too many chase sequences. Like it was just like one after the other. You're like, all right, I don't need another 15-minute chase sequence. Like there's one in the middle that's awesome, where it's the one on the freeway where the cars are going all over the place.
Yeah.
Um,
Very Mad Max Furiosa.
yeah, exactly. But then it's just like there's still so much more of the movie to get to, and it kind of interrupts it in a way. And so the second one's not a perfect film, but in a lot of ways, I liked it more than the first one. The third one then comes out 30 years later ish, and I absolutely love what they did. Michael Bay was no longer directing. He handed the reins off to two upcoming directors, and I thought they did a fantastic job. And the story was solid. They really encapsulated a lot of what Michael Bay had already built, and really helped continue this story. And it was a good story. Now this one now comes along, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried going into this because the third one,
100% worried.
the third one had the benefit of time, and then the characters and all that, they had their different lives, and then what's this Joe Pagliano dies in that one. Like they really packed a lot of punch into that third one, and I love the third one. So I was really worried about this one and see what they were going to do with it. But I'll tell you what, man, I was not just thoroughly surprised, but I can make an argument this might be my favorite one, because I think this one did the best with the comedy. I feel like in the third one, Martin Lawrence was a little rusty, and he was like just trying to get, because he really hadn't done much
It
acting.
felt too sticky. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
he felt a little rusty. And in this one, I felt like he was kind of back to Martin Lawrence from the 2000s. And I thought his humor and his character, he was more on top of. And he was really funny in this one. Because I loved old Martin Lawrence, and I feel like, again, I feel like he was to himself again. I feel like the first one he was almost a little too like he didn't have his confidence yet.
Sure.
And this one, I feel like he had his confidence. And then this is Will Smith's return to the big screen after the slap. And again, is he going to hold any of this on? Is he just going to be himself? And I thought he did a good job too. Their rapport was great in this one, and might have even been the best. And I think I thought it was a really good acting job by Will Smith. He definitely has different emotions throughout this movie, and I think he brought the heat in this one, and it just reminded everybody that he is a genuine star. If he's put in the right role and in the right movie and in the right setting, this guy is a star. Both these guys are.
We knew this. Just don't make a comment about his wife. Apparently, like
Yeah.
we know Will Smith is incredible, and we know
Yeah,
Will
but he had a
Smith
couple bad movies
incredible.
though too. That doesn't help.
But we know he's incredible in this role specifically. We know this. They've
Sure.
only made 3
Mike
movies.
Lowry.
The fourth.
Yeah.
If Will Smith was shitty, then there's no way they would have made a fourth movie. Now,
100%.
this movie is like, this is yet another Bad Boys movie that I'm going to continue to watch over and over and over again. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
Just like the first 3, the chemistry between the two is amazing. And let's get this right. These two together, whether they're outdated or whether there was a slap or whether, it doesn't matter the circumstances. If you can just like kind of eliminate the noise, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith together are 2 peas in a pod. Like these 2 guys together are absolutely phenomenal. You have to love this movie. And I don't know, I haven't done the research, forgive me, but there's 2 directors on this. There's Adil Arbi and then Bilall Fallah. I don't know what they've done, but
Bad Boys was their first movie, I believe. The last one.
Okay. Because they've really, really kind of like they understand the Bad Boys universe
100%. They're great.
a fantastic way. Like they've literally taken something, and this is the 4th of a series, and they have really been respectful and knowledgeable, and they've really hit on all of the great points of the first 3 movies and executed them perfectly. And it's almost seamless, like what they've done versus the original regime has done. Like they've done a really good job of not only establishing themselves as premier directors, but they've also been very respectful of the original series when it started up. Now, I will say there's always like things that you are going to expect from these movies. And there's always a great excuse for a slow motion stand up straight 180 degree shot. You know what I mean? Like you always have to throw one of those in there. And I'm so happy that they threw one of those in there. You get Reba singing Bad Boys.
That was great. That was a great moment.
Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
You also get like this pretty intense view at the very beginning, and it's not gonna spoil anything, but you get a really intense view on the in between life and death. You get a really incredible interpretation of what happens to you when you're in between life and death. That I thought was actually quite brilliant. That sort of set the tone for this movie. And then, at the end of the day, they still fuck with the Marine's son, no matter what.
Yeah, that was where I was just like, and I loved it too, Pete. You talked about it in another movie, but they kind of made it because they set it up well because he's playing video games
in this movie. This kid,
he's playing video games on the couch the whole time, basically this movie. But he's also he's also a Marine too, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden it becomes basically like a real life video game, and then they're watching it on screen and they're just like rooting. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, and he's like, "Go, like, turn it up!" Like,
dude, this
that
was
was a
like this is
brilliant, that was a
probably one of
brilliant scene.
this movie's gonna get zero recognition from anybody. This is one of my favorite movies. We're in June right now. We're halfway through the year. This is one of my favorite movies that I've seen so
Oh yeah,
far.
this is probably top five for sure. I liked it
And
probably better than Ghostbusters. I liked it. I mean, I like
there was
Ghost.
heart.
Or
There was heart in this movie. There was ridiculousness, like the Martin Lawrence character, without giving it away. Like he goes on this approach, and he goes through his own journey through this thing, and it's the beauty of the writing of this film,
yeah,
and
this
the
was
way that the writing was performed by these two amazingly charismatic actors was absolutely phenomenal. This was a really well done movie,
yeah.
and if every movie was done in this genre, like, or not this genre, but in
Well,
this method, you would have so many great films today. Like this
it
was a really great film.
absolutely. And what I loved about this film too, this was like a value pack film because I felt like this was again like a throwback to the original Bad Boys, Lethal Weapon. You know what I mean? Like this is a good old fashioned cop film, which we don't get a ton of these days because
It's
obviously
almost a throwaway. Like I don't see a lot of ads for this film.
the police. No, there's
But
plenty of ads everywhere. What are you talking about? Um,
ad-
we don't get a ton of great cop movies now, especially because the cops aren't necessarily like in great light. So this is like a good old fashioned 90s, 2000s, 80s even cop film, right? But then in the middle of it, it kind of turns like into The Fugitive, and you're just like, holy crap! Like
you
what? Like
yes,
what's going to happen? Like how are you
Fugitive,
going to get
that's
away?
like
You know?
film, perfect. Well done, Paul.